Hey guys, how's it going? We're gonna do something a little outside the norm here. This message is for everyone. I mean, everyone. Doesn't matter if you're spiritual, religious, atheist, doesn't matter, okay? And I want to make this very clear right off the bat. This is not a message about pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine. It doesn't matter what your views are and what your beliefs are, because the point of this message here is about fear, because fear is the big distraction. Fear is the big divider amongst all of us right now, okay? I have been receiving downloads in particular the last 3 weeks that are very heavily focused on this energy. And it's all coming down to the same thing, right? We need to stop taking everything at face value, because not everything is as it seems, which is why we're being called to trust our own discernment and use our intuition to make our own calls, okay? The point here is that we need to learn to start speaking nicer to each other, and we need to stop coming from this place of fear and projecting fear onto others, and then feeding into these cycles where we just become so spooked by the information that is being fed to us, because guess what is on the media? Fear, because that's what sells. A lot of us are going through spontaneous awakening. So if you're feeling isolated, kind of lost, your perspective on everything has changed, life as you know it seems to kind of flipped upside down, you might be having a spontaneous awakening, okay? All right, so let's get into this, because again, as I said, this message is focused on fear. Fear is the big distraction here. We have become so consumed and divided between vaccine, anti-vaccine, COVID is real, COVID is not real, amongst every other thing that's happening in the world right now, but this is the big unanimous one, right? So even in the last couple weeks, I kept hearing my spirit guides telling me messages about not everything is as it seems. Trust your inner judgment. Do not take everything at face value. It's trusting your inner knowing, even if you don't really see something, or even if something is being presented to you in a certain way. If you get that feeling that something is off, then it is. That's your instincts. That's your intuition telling you so, okay? All right, so let's get into it. Again, this is not my biased opinion. I'm not even going to tell you where I stand on the whole vaccine COVID thing, okay, because it is not relevant. Again, like I said, this message is for everyone. So when I asked in general, what can you tell me, guys, about COVID? What can you tell me about it? No surprise, 3 of Swords. This is a card of pain, heartbreak, suffering. I don't think there's anybody who's gotten away from this entirely, okay? Then we have this, it was clarified. I asked for a little bit more specific, because I was just like, that seems a little too obvious. And I got the Page of Wands. Page of Wands is fire energy, and it being the page means that he's the messenger, the communicator. This is what I've been trying to focus on, or what I'm luring our attention towards, okay, is this new way of speaking to each other, all right? Coming from a loving place instead of a fear-based place. So many of us, I know I've been guilty of this too, get in these loops where we see all this information and then we start projecting it outwards, and it almost becomes this act of judgment consistently, where it's, oh, you're not getting the vaccine, or oh, you are getting the vaccine, didn't you hear what happened, this and this? We need to stop projecting the fear, okay? Whatever you decide to do, it's your body. Let people do it. We are so consumed by fear that we are missing the big vital piece here, that we are being divided by this fear, okay? So then I looked a little bit further into this, and I said, all right, guys, well, what about the vaccine? What can you tell me? Because again, I like I said, I'm not going to go into like where I stand on this whole thing, but I myself have literally been so in and out, because I'll talk to one person and then I'll be like, oh my God, yeah, that. And then I talk to another person, I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, no, that, right? I realized I'm like, I just need to step back and make the decision for myself, because it doesn't matter what everybody else says or does, okay? And even things like calling people conspiracy theorists just because they don't want to get the vaccine, okay? You don't know that they're a conspiracy theorist. That's judgment, right? It's like, do you see what I'm getting at here? We are speaking so low vibrationally to each other and projecting so much fear onto each other that we are literally forgetting to not only love ourselves but love each other. Okay, so asking about this vaccine again, what did I get? I got the Two of Cups. This is soulmate energy. This is a mutual exchange of love. So when we're talking about this in terms of something that is not a human interaction exchange, what does this mean? It means that this is reciprocity. This is a mutual exchange of love and respect. Based on this, and again, like I said, I'm not here to convince you of anything, okay? So you don't need to take this as like Kim is telling me that I should get the vaccine. No, I'm not telling you to do anything, okay? I'm just offering you what my guides are telling me, but I know I need to share it with you. So this idea that the vaccine might actually be potentially something good, okay? As far as I'm concerned, the energy between it, around it, is something good, positive. What the problem is, we have the devil energy right next to it in the reverse. Devil energy is, guess what? It's not anything to do with the devil can't really always be good, right? This is a card of temptation, fear, karmic, okay? This is all about us feeding into, again, that fear and it being in the reverse. There is something here that is literally clouding our judgment and pulling us away from something that might actually be potentially good for us on a grand scale, okay? This devil card in the reverse, it's telling us, like, stop feeding into everything, okay? It's like with anything, right? It's like if you see a small group of people start rioting, you're eventually going to see that riot grow and grow and grow. People feed off of energy. I know a lot of people have really good intentions to just spread the awareness and spread information to people, but we have to be careful with how we're doing it because we're so caught up in all these things of, they're taking away our rights and our freedoms and all these things. We are literally doing this to each other. We're doing it to each other. We're so worried about the government and these higher forces taking away our rights and our freedom that we are literally depriving each other of those same rights and freedoms. The High Priestess here. This is about listening to your intuition, your inner judgment, okay? This is also about secrecy. Not everything is as it seems. Again, that message going back, do not take everything at face value, okay? If you are unsure about what you want to do, then take a step back. We just need to stand in that, okay? Don't keep listening into these things that are gonna make you fearful about your decisions, okay? Four of Wands, what we might not be realizing right now or taking into consideration is that we're actually building a solid foundation that's going to withstand time, okay? The Four of Wands is a card of celebration. It's stability, it's security, all right? There is something solid that is being formed here, but it's kind of getting washed away by fear and causing this divide amongst us so that we're not paying attention to the bigger picture, which is that we are fighting each other instead of fighting for our rights to be who the hell we are and who we want to be and what decisions we do or do not want to make. I see it all the time. People are so divided amongst it. What the heck is going on? Why is there such a disconnect? Queen of Swords in the reverse. In the upright, Queen of Swords is very discerning. She has been around the block. She knows better. Do not go to her with that orange and tell her it's an apple because she might just cut you, right? It being in the reverse, it is a lack of clarity. This is not using our judgment. This is, there is absolutely nothing wrong with using the logic and reasoning of our mind. Absolutely, we should be using logic and reasoning, okay? But it's also being mindful that it's where the ego lives, okay? So our ego, the intention of it is to protect us. So if we start looking into things, reading things, having conversations, and our ego starts going, red flag, beep, 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 there's danger here, be alert. Instead of just taking it as a warning, we often take it and run with it because fear and the ego is loud. It will just keep going. If you give it an inch, it will take a mile. Whereas the intuition, that inner knowing within ourselves, is a little bit more subtle. It's quiet. It's gentle because it wants you, it doesn't want to chase after you. It wants you to know that you are safe in trusting your own internal judgment, okay? So with this Queen of Swords in the reverse, it's like we're focusing on things that are not really worth our time and energy, hence fighting with each other, creating more fear and more disconnect amongst ourselves. It's just trusting your own judgment about what you are seeing so that you can see things clearly, okay? Two of Wands is what followed out after it. This is like a fork in the road, right? Let's think about it this way. Are you happy when you read all this information on the news, or when you hear all this information on the news, or when you read all things? Does it make you happy to read about all the crap that's going on in the world and how bad things are, and how we get this little glimmer of hope and then it gets ripped away from us when we realize that things aren't actually, they're starting to improve, they say, but like, I don't know, I'm not going in that direction either. But the point is that, do you want to keep feeding into that fear? A lot of us do. A lot of us are actively choosing to feed into the fear because, funny enough, it actually becomes a place of familiarity to us. So we don't want to venture down that other path, because even if we don't like what we're getting here, we're afraid to see what's on the other side, okay? But this is that fork in the road. If you keep feeding into fear, you will keep projecting fear and the cycle will continue, okay? And I know it becomes so hard because then it's like, well, how do I see all these things happening and not stand up for it, or not stand up for my beliefs or share them with people? It's not to say that you shouldn't. It's just to say, be very careful with how you're sharing it, because we want to come from a loving place, not a fear-based place, okay? Fear is what is dividing us, and now is not the time to be afraid, okay? We need to trust ourselves and we need to respect each other and each other's decisions. Okay, last card here. We got the World card in the reverse. In the upright, the World card means coming full circle. It literally means closing out one cycle to move into another. So when we're looking at it in terms of, I had it in reverse and then I put it upright. When we're looking at things in terms of, again, this new world order, we are literally resisting what we cannot resist by feeding into this fear. If we choose to keep venturing down that path where we are going to feed into fear and then project more fear, and the cycle goes on and on and on, this transition is going to become very, very difficult, okay? We are literally going to be putting ourselves through so much pain, frustration, and anguish because we are just living in this place of that old order. And I know it's so hard to walk away from something that we've become so familiar with and so used to. Again, like, believe it or not, some people like to live in that fear, and that's why they choose to keep watching things, because they don't know any different, because again, they don't know what's on the other side, so they might as well just stay where they are, okay? But the whole point is that we have an opportunity here to step into this new way of being and bring peace, love, and harmony into our worlds. Do you want to see a better world? Because I know I sure as hell do. It's the reality of this situation. If we do not start taking action towards living in a place of love, then we're just going to continue living in fear. And now is not the time. Now is not the time to be living in fear. We have left that era. It is no longer a part of us. And I know it's hard to let those old patterns, habits, comfort spaces to fall away from us, but this is a new world order, okay? Let's embrace it. Let's be open to receiving it, okay? Let's just love each other. Is that really so hard? Is it really so hard to just love and respect each other? Because that to me sounds like a pretty good world to live in. Anyways, I'm done. I'm sending so much love and light to you guys. Thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful for you, and let's just be nice to each other, okay? Love you lots.